Hello, cooking enthusiasts. This week's video is going to be my first pizza experiment of the season. Of course, this involves incorporating some freshly milled flour. In this case, I went with a somewhat interesting choice using Durum. Durum is just a different type of wheat. It is what pretty much all dried pasta that you buy is made out of. It is relatively high in protein, but not necessarily the proteins that form gluten. It works really well for dried pasta and fresh pasta made with just water. So this is classically the sort of distinguishing factor between northern Italian pasta and southern Italian pasta. The north is a bit richer and a bit more fertile, so you have egg pasta and normal wheat flour. And in the south, you have a bit less fertility, and the very hardy Durum flour is sort of more popular, at least traditionally. So while it ended up being basically the standard for dried pasta, it doesn't work as well in bread products, at least if it is a large percentage of the flour. But still, I have seen pizza dough and bread recipes from southern Italy that include at least a little bit of durum flour, and that is where my dad's side of the family is from. So, of course, I am fortunate enough that I was able to source relatively local organic Durum grains and mill them fresh before sifting. If you wanted to make something inspired by this, you would want to buy a fine Durum flour. This is different from semolina, which is generally coarser. Sometimes it is called semola, and it is also the type of fine durum flour you would want for making durum pasta by hand. From there, the rest of the dough is pretty classic. The rest of the flour is imported Caputo 00 flour. We are also doing a very small amount of yeast and a little bit of sourdough starter mixed in with the water. The hydration we went with is just around 70%, which is moderately high for this type of dough. Later, you will see we will be using an outdoor propane-based pizza oven, specifically the Ooni. But again, I think this type of dough would actually work well in a standard oven as well. I think especially if you are taking this video as inspiration for use in a regular oven, I would be substituting the 00 with regular bread flour. But in the description, I will put the exact ratio I used so you have some idea as to what to do for your dough. And in retrospect, we probably could have kneaded the dough with the machine a little longer, but it ended up Okay. After making the dough in the evening, we put it in the fridge for a slow initial fermentation, and the next day it was just about dividing it into individual dough balls. We ended up going with a few 180-gram dough balls and then one or two smaller ones. Separate from this, we also had a batch of standard pizza dough going based on the website for the Ooni. It turned out okay, but I find that the size they call for their 12-inch pizza is really big. Maybe we just didn't stretch them out properly, but for a 12-inch pizza, they call for 250 grams of dough. After dividing, all of the dough balls went back in the fridge for pretty much 24 more hours, and then a few hours before actually making pizza, we took them out to get to room temperature. Unfortunately, I didn't get footage of my dad stretching the initial pizza, but that is something we are still improving on, so you are not missing much. For the first major test of my pizza dough, I wanted to go super simple, so this is just a marinara pizza. Only crushed tomatoes, in this case, Bianco de Napoli tomatoes that were really nice, and a little bit of my Italian herb and seaweed mixture. If you haven't seen my herb mixture video, I recommend checking it out. Another nice benefit of incorporating sifted durum into the dough is that the coarse durum that didn't make it through was our sort of bench flour for working with all of the pizza dough. Once my dad gets the pizza into the oven, my brother sort of takes over turning the pizza with the other style of pizza peel. We are definitely new at working with these cameras and working with multiple cameras, so we didn't quite get the perfect angle, but hopefully you can still see a good amount of what is going on. At this point in time, we had already fired a few of the regular pizza doughs and also turned the temperature of the oven down a little, potentially too much because it did end up taking quite a little while, but it also gave us more time to really turn the pizza and take a look at it. Coincidentally, so bodes well for this type of dough actually working in a more standard home oven. Although in the future, I will make sure the pizza oven is a little bit hotter for experimenting with. Still, after a few minutes and a lot of rotating, we were pretty much there, and the pizza came out really nice. I would say our stretching also needs a little bit of work, but overall, this was one of the best pizzas of the day. I would say both the temperature we were working with, but also the dough made a more even golden brown rather than leopard spots. The actual base of the pizza was also much crisper, and the edges of the crust were also pleasantly crisp, but still nice and soft inside. The Durum did add a nice little particular flavor, and also there was extra flavor from that sourdough. Still definitely room for improvement, but most of my family actually agreed that this pizza and the other pizzas made with my dough were actually better than the dough from the company website. Some of that was definitely just variability in user error, but that kind of consensus rarely happens, so I will call that an overall success. If you have any questions about this pizza dough or pizza in general, please let me know in the comments. Again, full written recipe in the description. If you like this, please subscribe, share, and do all of the usual YouTube stuff. Otherwise, thank you for watching.